Have you ever wondered how a computer actually thinks? Well, a lot of the time, it's just following some really simple instructions on a list. In programming, we call those lists arrays, and today we're going to use them to solve a few classic puzzles. It's all about learning to think like a machine. Let's dive in. So this is the big question for today. How do you take a simple list of numbers and write a recipe, an algorithm that a computer can follow to find interesting patterns? We're going to tackle this by breaking down 3 classic programming challenges, one step at a time.
Okay, first up, a real classic. Imagine you've got a list of numbers and you have a target number in mind. The puzzle is to find all the pairs of numbers in that list that add up perfectly to your target. Sounds easy enough for us, right? But how do you tell a computer how to do it without missing anything?
Let's make this real. Here is our array. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And our goal is to find any pairs in this list that add up to exactly 10. Now, you can probably just look at it and spot the answers, but we need a foolproof method that a computer can follow every single time.
The strategy here is what's called a nested loop. You can think of it as the brute force approach. It's really thorough. We have an outer loop that picks a number. Then, an inner loop kicks in and pairs that number with every single other number that comes after it. It checks the sum each time. Once it's done with the first number, the outer loop just moves to the next one and does it all over again. Let's watch it happen.
All right, the computer gets to work. It starts with the very first number, which is 2. The inner loop then grabs the next number in line, which is 4. It asks, does 2 plus 4 equal 10? Nope, that's 6, so it just moves on to the next one.
The inner loop keeps chugging along. It tries 2 plus 6. That's 8, no match. Then it gets to the number 8. It checks, does 2 plus 8 equal 10? Yes, it does. We found our first pair. The computer makes a note of it and keeps right on going. So, after checking the number 2 against everything else, the outer loop finally says, okay, my turn, and moves on to the next number, 4. The inner loop starts all over again, pairing 4 with the numbers after it. First up is 6. So, what's 4 plus 6? It's 10. Boom, another match found.
After it has checked every other possible combination, and I mean every combination, the program is finally done. And here's the result. It correctly found the 2 pairs. 2, 8, and 4, 6. Perfect. Challenge 1, complete. Let's keep this momentum going and move to our second challenge. This one builds on the last one a bit. The question is, how do you count how many times each unique item shows up in a list? The real trick here is making sure you don't accidentally count the same number more than once. Okay, here's our new list. We've got a jumble of 5s, 2s, and 3s. The goal is to have the program tell us, hey, the number 5 appears 3 times, 2 appears 2 times, and 3 appears 2 times. So again, how do we design a method for that? Now this is where the solution gets really clever. We're going to use a helper, which is actually a second array. You can call it a tracking array or a visited array. Its one and only job is to be a little bookkeeper. It remembers which items in our original list we've already counted, so we don't do the same work over and over. Let's trace it out. The program starts at the first element, which is a 5. Right now, our visited array is all false. The computer then scans the whole list, looking for other 5s. When it finds one at index 3, it flips visited 3 to true. Finds another one at index 6 and flips visited 6 to true. All in all, it's counted 3 5s. So here is the really crucial part. Later on, when the main loop gets to index 3, the first thing it's going to do is check our little tracking array. It'll see that visited 3 is already true, which tells it, hey, we've already dealt with this 5, so it just skips it entirely. This simple trick saves a ton of pointless work. The program just keeps doing this for the 2s and the 3s, and once it's all done, we get this nice, clean output. It correctly tallied up how many times each unique number appeared, and it's all thanks to that simple little tracking array. Pretty smart, right? All right, time for our third and final challenge. And trust me, this one requires a completely different way of thinking. We're not just comparing things anymore, now we're going to be moving them around. The goal is to merge 2 sorted lists into one. So here's the puzzle. We have a small, sorted array, and we have a larger sorted array that has a bunch of empty space at the end, just enough to fit all the numbers from the smaller one. The challenge is to merge them into one big sorted list, but, and this is the important part, you can't just create a third array to help you out. You have to do it all within the space you already have. The solution to this is just incredibly elegant.
Instead of starting from the beginning of the lists, which would mean we'd have to keep shifting numbers around and making a huge mess, we start from the end. We use pointers, which are just variables that keep track of a position. We point to the last real number in each list, and we also point to the very last empty spot in the big array. Then we just compare the two numbers, place the bigger one in the empty spot, and move our pointers down.
Let's watch this thing work. One pointer is at the end of our first array, pointing at the 9. Another is at the last actual number in our second array, pointing at the 7. We compare them. Which one's bigger? 9 is. So we place the 9 in the very last empty slot of that big array. Then we just move the pointer for the first array one step to the left.
Okay, next comparison. The pointer for the first array is now on the 6. The pointer for the second array is still on the 7. So which is bigger this time? The 7 is. So we take that 7 and we place it in the next available open spot. See what's happening? We're building the final sorted list backwards without ever writing over a number we still need to look at.
And this process just keeps on going. Compare, place, move the pointer until all the numbers from both arrays have been put into their new home. And look at that. We are left with one single perfectly sorted array. And we did it all in place. It's just an incredibly efficient and clever way to solve the problem.
So, we just cracked 3 totally different puzzles. But what's the big lesson here? What's the takeaway? Well, it turns out that each solution actually shows us a fundamental pattern in how to think like a computer.
Think about it. For finding pairs, we used nested loops because we had to be systematic and check everything. For counting things, the secret was tracking state with a helper array so we didn't do extra work. And for merging, we used that clever pointer strategy to work backwards and avoid a big mess. These aren't just one-off tricks, you know? They are powerful, reusable strategies.
And that really is the most important thing to remember here. Once you start to understand these core patterns, how to check all combinations, how to track what you've already done, and how to use pointers to move things around, you've unlocked the ability to solve a massive range of problems. You're not just solving one puzzle, you're learning the language of problem solving itself.
But all of this brings us to one last really important question. These methods are clever, and they work great for small lists. But what happens when your list doesn't have 7 numbers, but 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000? Our simple nested loop would literally take forever. So the next question is, how do you solve these same puzzles not just correctly, but fast? Well, that's a whole other level of thinking and a topic for another day. Thanks for joining me.